Imagine waking up tomorrow, opening your banking app, and seeing a nine-figure balance staring back at you. $500 million sitting in cold, hard cash. But there is one absolute unbreakable rule. You cannot tell a single soul. Not your parents, not your best friend, not even your dog. Welcome to the life of the silent millionaire, or in this case, the silent half-billionaire. Most people think that if they won the lottery or sold a startup for $500 million, the first thing they would do is buy a neon green Lamborghini, a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and a diamond-encrusted watch. But if you actually study the ultra-wealthy, the ones who value their peace and sanity, you quickly realize that flashing your wealth is the fastest way to ruin your life. The moment society knows you have $500 million, the clock starts ticking. Every relationship you have instantly changes. Your childhood friends start pitching you their terrible app ideas. Your extended family suddenly needs loans for medical bills they probably made up. Strangers look at you not as a person, but as a walking, talking ATM. You become a massive target for lawsuits, scammers, and people who just want to tear you down for the thrill of it. So you choose stealth wealth. You choose to be the person standing in the grocery store line in sweatpants, driving a dented 2014 Honda CR-V, while secretly holding enough capital to buy the entire supermarket chain. But how do you actually pull this off? How do you live a $500 million life without anyone noticing? First, you need the ultimate cover story. You can't just tell people you are unemployed or retired at 30 because that invites questions, pity, or deep suspicion. If you drive a decent car and live in a nice house but have no visible job, people start whispering. So you invent a career that is so incredibly boring, nobody ever asks a follow-up question. You become a freelance logistics consultant. Or you say you do compliance auditing for mid-sized supply chain firms. The moment those words leave your mouth, people's eyes will glaze over, and they will immediately change the subject. It is the perfect camouflage. Next comes your living situation. You don't buy the $50 million mega mansion with the massive iron gates and the armed security guards. Instead, you buy a very nice but very normal-looking house in an upper-middle-class neighborhood. Maybe it costs $1 million. From the outside, it looks like you're just doing okay. But the inside? That is where you deploy your invisible wealth. Invisible wealth is spending money on things that drastically improve your quality of life, but that nobody else can see. You install a $50,000 custom HVAC system, so the air in your home is as pure as a Swiss mountaintop. You buy a $100,000 bespoke mattress tailored perfectly to your spine. You have a private chef who signs an ironclad non-disclosure agreement, coming in while you are away to stock your fridge with organic, perfectly portioned meals. You build a subterranean home theater and a spa-level sauna in your basement. Your home is a fortress of absolute luxury, disguised as a completely average suburban house. What about your car? This is where the psychology of stealth wealth is the most fun. You see people going into massive debt to lease a Range Rover or a Mercedes just to look rich to people they hate at traffic lights. You, on the other hand, drive a slightly beat-up, unassuming car. Maybe a gray Toyota Tacoma or an older Chevy Equinox with a small dent in the bumper. That dent is your absolute shield. Nobody looks twice at a car with a dented bumper. But underneath the hood, maybe you have completely customized the suspension, the soundproofing, and the audio system. You are riding in absolute comfort, completely invisible to the world. The real superpower of having $500 million and keeping it a secret is the psychological absolute freedom. When you walk into a room, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You might be at a dinner party where some guy is bragging about his new promotion and his leased Porsche, trying desperately to establish dominance. You just sit there, sipping your water, smiling politely.
You know with absolute certainty that you could buy his company, fire him, buy the restaurant you are sitting in, and turn it into a parking lot, all before dessert arrives. But you don't, because true power doesn't need to announce itself. This level of wealth also allows you to be an anonymous guardian angel. You can pay for the college tuition of your niece through an anonymous trust. You can leave a $10,000 tip for a waitress who looks like she is having a terrible day and walk out the door before she even sees the receipt. You get to change lives without ever having to take the credit and, more importantly, without ever having to deal with the awkward gratitude or future expectations.
Of course, managing this massive secret takes work. You have to set up a labyrinth of LLCs, blind trusts, and holding companies. When you buy that normal-looking house, your name isn't on the deed. It is owned by a generic-sounding trust managed by a law firm in another state. Your banking is handled by private wealth managers who are legally bound to absolute secrecy. To the government, you are a tax-paying entity, but to your neighbors, you're just Dave, the quiet guy who works in logistics and keeps his lawn neat. Traveling is where you finally get to flex, but only thousands of miles away from anyone who knows you. You tell your friends you found a cheap flight to Europe and you're staying in a modest Airbnb. In reality, you are flying private out of a secondary airport. You land in Italy and spend a month in a historic villa overlooking the Amalfi Coast, surrounded by private staff. But you make sure to only post 1 or 2 blurry photos on social media of a generic pizza or a cobblestone street, complaining about the jet lag. You curate an image of average existence while living a life of unimaginable luxury. Living as a silent millionaire is the ultimate hack to the human experience. It gives you the one thing that money is actually meant to buy: absolute freedom. Freedom from stress, freedom from other people's expectations, and freedom from the toxic game of status that traps 99% of society. You get to observe the world from behind a one-way mirror, perfectly safe, perfectly secure, and entirely at peace. If you found this breakdown of stealth wealth fascinating and want to learn more about the psychology of money and how to build your own financial freedom, make sure you hit that subscribe button.